That's possible.
You recall testifying that they could go up and down for any sort of reason in your deposition.
Yeah, they can go up and down for many different reasons.
So you're not offering an opinion that Mr. Depp's Q scores were damaged because of Ms. Heard's op-ed, correct?
That's correct.
And in comparing the Q scores from before the op-ed to the Q scores after the op-ed, Mr. Depp's Q scores dropped by 2 points, correct?
I don't have those Q scores in front of me, but if you're looking at them, I believe.
We can show the third page of this demonstrative.
I love, and I'm being sarcastic, how these lawyers, they don't let the witnesses see anything, but they try and get them to misquote stuff. It's not even professional. They keep saying, I'd be happy to talk about it if you show me the article, and then they just move on to the next question.
And even though you're not an expert, you have an idea about what the term statistically significant means, correct?
Yes.
And statistical significance.
Oh my.
Your findings are meaningful, right?
Yes, I don't think you need statistics to understand Q scores.
And you don't know if there's any significance to a drop in 2 points in positive Q score, correct?
There absolutely is. When you're ordering Q scores, it's points at a time.
Mr. Banya, go to your deposition, page 113.
This lawyer is just really rude. I don't care whose side he's on. Him and the other female lawyer on Mrs. Heard's side are just blatantly rude. It's just bad. Oh well. I mean.
Okay.
At 10, at page 113, line 10, it says, so you're not offering an opinion as to the significance of a change in Q score, correct?
Answer. Yes, I'm having a snack.
Correct.
Sorry.
Well,
I'll mute myself.
Statistically, a difference. What I'm talking about is how we use Q scores in the industry. When you see a Q score dropping from a 31 to a 29, there's an issue. Is this somebody you really want to hire to endorse your products or your service? No, you probably not. You want to look into why, what is going on in the public to make these Q scores drop like that.
And you don't know exactly the significance between 5 or 6 points of a drop in Q score, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, and it shows here that Mr. Depp's negative Q score actually got better from point B to point C, correct?
Correct.
So that's actually better for Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you understand that Dr. Alan Jacobs reviewed your opinions in this case?
Yes.
And you understand that Dr. Jacobs reviewed additional Q score data, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can we please put up Plaintiff's Exhibit 889
Who is Dr. Jacobs?
at 117? Mr. Banya, do you understand this as a chart of Mr. Depp's Q scores from winter 2012 through summer of 2021?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to question the Q scores that are shown in this chart?
Like I said in my deposition, I've not received the actual data to build this chart, but I don't have any reason to not believe that this is accurate.
It's not from magic.com, is it?
Q scores are performed on a celebrity like Mr. Depp twice a year, correct?
Yes.
So there's winter of a particular year, and then there's summer of a particular year?
Yes.
And the winter scores come out around February, is that right?
I don't have that information in front of me, but it sounds right.
And so would you know when the summer scores come out?
I don't.
Okay. And this chart shows, well, permission to publish this chart as a demonstrative, Your Honor.
Any objection? I don't think this witness has laid an appropriate foundation for it, Your Honor.
He said he has no reason to question the Q scores.
I'll allow it as a demonstrative. That's fine.
And so this chart shows Mr. Depp's positive and negative Q scores, correct?
Correct.
And the positive Q scores are in blue.
That's correct.
Can you blow it up a little bit, Michelle? And the negative Q scores are in red?
Yes.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach for a moment?
Mr. Banya, the positive Q score for Mr. Depp in the winter of 2012 is 42, correct?
It's in between, yeah, it's in between 40 and 45.
Okay. And did you check the actual Q scores that Mr. Jacobs demonstrated in his report?
No, my analysis was a snapshot of time. I wanted to know Johnny Depp's Q scores directly before the 2012 allegations, 2016 allegations of abuse, and after.
Okay. And you see here that the positive Q scores for Mr. Depp dropped from 42 in the winter of 2012 to 35 in the summer of 2016, correct?
Yes.
That's a 7-point drop, correct?
Yes.
And that's before Ms. Heard had her divorce filing, correct?
That's correct.
And that drop in Mr. Depp's positive Q scores nothing to do with Ms. Heard's op-ed, correct?
Correct.
And that drop could have nothing to do with the allegations Ms. Heard made after the divorce filing, correct?
Correct.
And would you agree that the positive
Oh, he's slowing down now.
actually start to show an increase for Mr. Depp after the op-ed? There's a decrease and then there's an increase?
Yep.
And the same for the negative Depp Q scores. There's a bit of a positive and then it goes down, correct?
Yes.
So really the op-ed had no effect on Mr. Depp's Q scores, correct?
Ah, nice try.
As I mentioned, my analysis looked at the snapshot of time
Preaching.
that shows
Nice
that
try,
he was
though.
harmed, you know, from before
Oh yeah, no
the
effect.
allegations of abuse in 16 to
Sorry, I'm
after
just trying
the
to
op-ed
light a
in
candle here.
2018.
You looked at 3 Q scores, and you could have looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,
He's an expert.
16,
You're not there.
17,
Sorry, honey.
18. I won't even count the 2021 scores.
Wow, I'm
18
gonna
Q scores,
check out the
correct?
comments and see what other people are
You looked
saying
at
about
3.
this guy, this lawyer. Wow,
Right,
jeez.
And that's what you're
Funny guy.
basing your opinion on, that the op-ed damaged Mr. Depp's Q scores?
Yeah, so what we need to
That's my,
understand is
my question is yes or no. Your counsel can come back and ask
what
you
I
whatever you
wanted
want.
to do,
Your Honor.
I wanted to analyze.
Exactly. The lawyers are trying to be experts in every field. I know, it's so
I
silly.
didn't hear your question.
You looked at 3 Q scores instead of 18 Q scores, correct?
That's correct.
And did you look at the Q scores at all after the Dan Wooten article that came out in April of 2018?
Objection, asked and answered, Your Honor.
I don't think I asked that.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
No.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
All right, redirect.
I hear you, Lexi, about their lawyers. It's etiquette. Those lawyers have lost etiquette.
You were asking questions about the fact that you made a determination about which of these articles had a negative connotation. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is that something that you do in situations other than in your analysis in this case?
Yeah. So in non-litigation, when we're building brand monetization strategies, and especially if you're going to work with a celebrity or an athlete, you want to look at what's going on out there, you know, about that personality. You know, because celebrities and athletes, you know, Q scores can go up and down. You want to analyze the time and see what's going on out in the media. Do I really want my client to license in a celebrity that there's problems out there, or an athlete? So yes, it's important to look at this.
And I believe you were asked whether you're offering an opinion in this case about the impact of the op-ed on Mr. Depp's public image. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And I believe you testified that you are offering an opinion on that. Is that right?
Yes.
What's that opinion?
Well, the opinion is that he's portrayed in a negative connotation after that date.
And with respect to the Q scores that you analyzed, Mr. Nadelhoff was asking you about the 3 points in time that you looked at. Why, in your opinion, was it appropriate to look at just those 3 Q scores?
Yeah, as I was trying to explain, you know, Q scores do go up and down. We're analyzing a period of time. We want to see what's happening right before an event, during that event, and if there's another event after that event. And that is our area of analysis. So that's why just these 3 sets of Q scores are the appropriate way to analyze this.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness subject to recall?
He is, Your Honor.
All right.
There's a reason why he's been assigned as an expert. I'm sorry, Mr. Lawyer, but
Okay.
a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
All right, your next witness.
Your Honor, I believe we're calling Aaron Filati by deposition.
Oh, okay.
And, Your Honor, there are a few exhibits, or at least 2 exhibits that I think that's on the list.
Okay, could you put, I'm sorry, could you put your microphone on?
We approach, there's 2 exhibits that we have.
Okay. All right, well, we're,
I apologize. I went off the page for a minute. Okay, they're just approaching. So are they still with the same witness? I'm not sure what's happening here. Did he get to go off? That was reaching. I'm telling you, that was reaching. Wonder how much more he has for today. It's getting... Okay, so currently nothing's happening. The arguee lawyer is arguing something up there. I'm curious if they're going to call a new witness or if they're still grilling the expert, the Google analytic expert. And I also wonder if the stenographer here in the corner is allowed to record what they're talking about there. I am very curious. Does anybody know that? Okay. Sending love and light to this lawyer because, wow, this case is very complicated. To this judge, I meant to say judge.
All right, your next witness then?
Thank you, Your Honor. Plaintiff calls Aaron Filati, also known as Aaron Borem Filati, and Ms. Ford's counsel begins the questioning.
Aaron, okay. Who is this? Does anybody know? Aaron Filati? Pilati? It sounded like Pilati. Let me see, who is this new person?
Is Borum your maiden name?
Correct.
Okay, so Borum was your name, your last name in the 2014 to 2016 timeframe, correct?
That's correct.
Have you communicated with anybody else from Mr. Depp's counsel other than Ms. Bastian?
Not that I recall. Oh, excuse me, I do. I don't remember his name, I'm so sorry.
I feel like I spoke with him. I don't know his last name.
Did you speak to or communicate with Adam Waldman?
Perhaps. I don't recall his last name.
And do you recall when that occurred?
That would have been
Who is this woman?
2019.
Does anybody know?
because I had a newborn at that time. So maybe May, June, July, something like that, 2019.
So this is a text exchange between you and Mr. Waldman?
It appears so.
Okay. And do you recall speaking to Mr. Waldman at all?
Yes.
And do you recall that when you were communicating with Mr. Waldman was Mr. Depp's attorney?
Yes.
Ms. Filati, you're a trained nurse, is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, she's a nurse. Okay.
Do you have any specialties?
I'm assuming this was Mr. Depp's, one of Mr. Depp's nurses.
Like I used to, but previously I was trained in addictions and mental health.
Well, this
When
is
you
the
say
right
addictions,
people for you then.
what
Addictions and
type
mental
of
health.
addictions you were trained in?
Check, check.
All, but I primarily worked with chemical dependency.
And where did you receive training for addiction and mental health?
Yeah. Do you have a degree?
Different employment places, and then I became a certified registered addiction nurse.
Okay, that doesn't really mean much. That could be like a little course. That's not a
You
degree.
know who Dr. David Kipper is, correct?
Correct.
Did you work for Dr. Kipper?
Not directly,
But
That
he
sounds fishy.
would hire the agency I provided nursing services for, which was
The agency.
Turning Point, I believe.
This whole Dr. Kipper
So
seems a
I
little
worked
fishy. I gotta
under
tell you, there's
his
something not quite right
guidance,
about
but
him
not
and his practice. I don't know.
for him. Most of the time. There have been times where I've worked.
This is a feeling I have.
Okay. When did you start working for Turning Point Nursing Services, or whatever the name of that company was?
I don't recall. My best guess would be somewhere between 2007 or 8.
And when did you start to begin to do any work for Dr. Kipper?
I believe 2014.
Okay, this is going way too
What were the
slow.
circumstances that started you working for Dr. Kipper in 2014?
Because I needed a job, maybe.
If I recall correctly, it would be for services for Ms. Heard.
Were you ever responsible for Mr. Depp's nursing care while he was under the treatment of Dr. Kipper?
I provided him with nursing care.
I wonder how many other celebrities these nurses run to on site,
To your deposition.
come to in the middle of the night.
And these are AH TPD 16929 through 16959. And is that the paper document?
Online, it's really, really almost impossible to read that when you're online. Like, it's not even,
The front page.
how can someone read that unless they have a copy in front of them?
And the first page might have said at the bottom also K182.
Yes, I have that.
Okay. Do you recognize these as your, what are these?
These are my nursing notes kept for Ms. Heard.
What are your nursing notes for Miss Heard?
Yes.
And these are notes you created?
Yes.
Did you create these notes in the ordinary course of business?
Yes.
Okay. Were you trained in how to prepare these notes?
Yes.
Would you write these when? How long after the visit would you write up these notes?
You shouldn't have to hesitate.
Sometimes I would keep notes on my phone that I would transfer to the Word document when I was in front of my laptop. And if not possible, I would do it as soon as feasible.
That's a bullshit answer. Ethically, you're supposed to do it as quickly as possible, preferably within 48 hours. So you actually have accurate
I don't
note.
recall. At intervals, but I don't recall.
So if you look at the first page of the notes, the first entry is August 27th, 2014, correct?
Yes.
And you wrote RN has been hired to provide private nursing care for client Amber Heard, right?
Correct.
Right. And RN refers to you, correct? And an RN means registered nurse, correct?
Correct.
Yes. A nurse.
And throughout the notes, when you say this here, Amber Heard would be referred to as client or AH, correct? And Johnny Depp would be referred to as JD.
Pretty standard.
Would you agree that Mr. Depp and Amber would get into verbal arguments?
I recall a general sense of discord in the relationship.
What do you mean by general sense of discord?
That they argued a lot.
I just recall there being disagreements, reconciliation, and kind of that repeating pattern.
And would you be at times taking care of Amber because of the disagreements between Mr. Depp and Amber?
I provided emotional support. I was not present with her often, but was available over the phone, via text, and sometimes in person.
Do you recall that in March 2015, Amber went to Australia to be with Mr. Depp?
Yes, I remember she went to Australia. As to the dates, I would have to look through documentation to ascertain the exact dates.
Okay. And on exhibit 2,
They,
this is your
she
note
just
of
provided
March 7th,
emotional support so
2019.
far.
That's correct.
And you wrote, client notifies RN via text of increasing anxiety.
Yes, I wrote that.
And then on 3/8/15, you wrote RN received report from Debbie RN. Debbie being Debbie White, correct?
That's correct.
Do you recall what the report you received was on March 8th, 2015 from Debbie?
I'm just reading my notes.
Sure.
2015. It's 2022 when you were interviewing her.
So to answer your question, no, I don't recall specifics.
Makes
what
a
the
lot of
report
sense.
Would have been. I assume, based on this note, that would have been a phone call.
Okay. And it says client will be returning to Los Angeles on March 9th, 2015, accompanied by house manager Ben. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, this
Do
is
you
when
have
all
an
the shit
understanding as
went
to
down with
why
the
Amber was leaving Australia in March of 2015.
prenuptial, the postnuptial that
Yes.
she freaked out about.
I don't know if this is the exact timing, but you know better than I, there was an incident in Australia and they had to be, Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp had to be separated. So Ms. Heard returned to Los Angeles for my nursing notes, and I believe Mr. Depp must have stayed in Australia.
What was your understanding as to why Mr. Depp and Amber had to be separated?
I'm sure she knew all about it. I'm sure she knew the whole story.
It's hard to recall specifics because I wasn't there or involved at the time, but became involved again. I remember hearing from other people that there was quite an argument between the two.
She's being very careful with her words.
Do you have any understanding if anyone was injured during the argument between Amber and Mr. Depp?
Physically injured?
Physically, yeah.
Again, I wasn't present, so I'm only speaking as to what I recall during that time period and what I sort of remember hearing from others. And also, I just remember Mr. Depp's finger was injured. I can't tell you specifically which one, but I remember there was an injury to his finger.
Do you have any understanding as to how his finger was injured?
And then,
Aaron, you wrote the next note on March 9th, 2015 that says RN and CT in touch via text and phone calls after client arrived at 1500.
Yes, I wrote that.
Okay. And 1500, you're using military time, correct?
That's correct.
So that would be 3 p.m.
Correct.
Okay. And you wrote client expressed feeling, quote, sad, right?
Yes, I wrote that.
Okay. Do you recall what Amber was sad about at approximately March 9th, 2015?
I can't speak to the, I don't.
I'm sure she doesn't remember.
Specifically, but I
The
would
fact that
assume based
they
on
had text access to these
March
nurses. I mean, professionally,
those feelings were.
is it different for celebrities? They have 24-hour access to nurses and psychotherapists, and
You wrote client
Therapists.
she would like to discuss recent events between her
ethically,
and
that's not
husband
something that we
with
do.
RN tomorrow.
I don't text with any clients. That's not, it's not ethical. It's not something,
Do
it's not
you
pro-
recall all the conversation you had with Amber regarding the events between her and Mr. Depp at around this March 9th, 2015 timeframe?
No, I don't recall specifics.
Do you recall anything in general?
I really don't, I'm sorry.
She just wants no hands of it. She doesn't want to deal with this. She's just washing her hands.
Did Amber express any fear of Mr. Depp at this time?
Don't recall. I don't see that in this note, so I can't speak to that.
And then the note for March 10th, 2015, you see that note?
I do.
We can take this down.
She's like, am I done
We put
yet?
up attachment 25, please.
She's uncomfortable. Her body language is, she's not, she's like, I want to get out of Dodge. I don't want to answer these questions. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be liable. I think she's downplaying her involvement.
Ms. Velati, I'm showing you a text chain between you and Whitney Hurd on March 23rd, 2015. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And on March 23rd, 2015, you texted to Whitney Hurd, Debbie just told me what's going on and to check with you, is Amber awake or fall asleep? Do you see that?
I do.
And then Ms. Hurd wrote she finally fell asleep. You see that?
Yes.
I'm sure she remembers
Yeah,
way
you were-
more than
thank
she's,
goodness.
I'm sorry, but she's
She must
not.
be exhausted.
I'm sorry, just to confirm, this is from Whitney Hurd, not Amber Hurd, correct?
As I understand it, it says with Hurd. Is that your understanding?
I assume. Thank you.
I think you would have remembered this. Sorry.
Do you recall ever communicating with Whitney Hurd via text or chat?
That sounds familiar.
Okay. And you wrote, thank goodness, she must be exhausted. You want me to come to the loft, or is she safe and sound asleep? You see that?
Did you see that?
Okay.
Text messages don't lie,
And
honey.
then Whitney wrote, safe? Question mark? No, she's not. Kept saying she wants to kill herself.
Oh.
See that?
See that?
Were you ever concerned about Miss Hurd's safety as it relates to Mr. Depp?
So if she made comments to me that she was not safe, I would be concerned about her to ensure that she was safe. Yes.
Do you recall Miss Hurd making comments to you about her safety?
I remember a general sense when they, meaning Ms. Hurd and Mr. Depp, would have arguments. She would often have her friends around her for support. But from a general, physical sense, she was always in a safe place.
And you mean, where you mean in a general physical sense, she was always in a safe place. What do you mean by that?
Meaning she was always, not always, I should say, often home, often surrounded with friends. She had friends that lived right down the hallway from her, so she was always supported.
Was Mr. Depp friends with Marilyn Manson?
Yes, I believe.
Whoa.
Ms. Velati, I'm showing you
That was out of the blue.
marked as Exhibit 7, and these are texts
Marilyn Manson.
that Mr. Depp produced between you and him. And I'm focusing on this text message of October 31st, 2015. You see that? Well, so this text message between you and Whitney is on March 23rd, 2015. You see that?
I do.
Okay. And if we go back to Exhibit 2, and I'll go back. Oops. There's no entry for March 23rd, 2015.
Yeah.
You see that? Not everything you did for Miss Hurd as a nurse is reflected in these notes, correct? And the next notes we have are November 25th, 2015. Do you know why there's a long period where there's no notes?
Yes. Perhaps I can shed some light for you and everyone on the relationship. When I was first hired to care for Ms. Heard, I worked full-time. You know, I was assigned 24/7 basically. And after a period of time, I became more part-time and on call. And I was working with different clients at the time. So I would, how to put it, I would not be working regularly, but would also be available if an issue arose or a medication change needed or things like that. So I would assume that would account for this gap.
Why did you move from full-time to part-time?
I don't know the exact answer, but I assume
Yeah, I think you
that's not my
do.
decision to make.
but-
That's usually the client and or treating physician.
I think that you do.
Okay, so that's the first page of Exhibit 2.
Yes, thank you. So if you can you go down to, it's about the third paragraph, a little bit, yes. Per report from JD, which refers to Mr. Depp, Debbie, RN, and Dr. Kipper, client AH, which is Ms. Heard, has reportedly been experiencing increased anxiety and agitation recently and has had several outbursts of anger and rage. From what I remember, when I was involved in the case, it was to help assist Ms. Heard with some emotional issues, anxiety issues, in attempts to assist, in layman's term, kind of calming things down a bit.
Do you recall any examples that you knew of anger and rage showed by Amber?
I do recall seeing her very angry. I have to refer to my notes. It was in London, so that would have been 2014. And I believe it was in reference to a violating incident where her phone had been hacked and she was quite upset. I saw her angry at that time, and other times I don't recall.
Were you in London with Amber at the time?
Yes.
And how was Amber showing her anger?
Yelling, screaming, throwing things.
Recall loud, kind of
Screaming.
elevated, voice, yelling, crying,
Swearing.
quite a bit.
Do you recall receiving a call from Amber around December 16, 2015 regarding this argument between Mr. Depp and Amber?
I don't recall a specific phone call.
Would you doubt that a phone call occurred if you wrote it down in your notes?
If I wrote it, I don't doubt that it occurred. I just don't have memory of it.
And now you see the note on December 17, 2015?
Yes.
And you wrote RN in contact with client to notify her that she'd be able to deliver medications to her home. RN waited at door for several minutes after knocking. Client greeted RN at door looking disheveled. Hair appeared unbrushed. Client appeared weepy and sad. Posture is slouched. Client told RN about argument with husband. RN offered emotional support, but reminded client that RN could not stay as was on duty with another client and was only visiting in order to deliver medication. Per client, she had not had contact with husband since altercation. Client had visible bright red blood appearing at center of lower lip. when RN made client aware that she was actively bleeding on her lip, client stated it was from injuries sustained in the, and then it's blank. You see that? And then we can keep going down in the argument between
Interesting.
her and her husband,
Yeah.
and that it continues to bleed actively.
I
You
don't-
wrote that?
I don't.
Yes.
And then you also wrote clients also states that her head is bruised and that she lost clumps of hair in altercation. You wrote that.
I assume so. It's in my notes.
Okay. And then you wrote, RN who briefly looked at client's scalp but was unable to visualize the hematomas client had described.
So she
You wrote
lied.
that?
Yes, I would agree.
Wow.
And then
This
you
is
wrote,
bad.
RN encouraged clients to be seen by physician Dr. Tipper or go to emergency urgent care for thorough assessment. You do
Yeah.
that?
Go to the.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure
And
she
then you
didn't
wrote,
do
client
that.
states you will contact Dr. Tipper tomorrow. Client is supported by friends Rocky and Io, who will be staying in client's home with her.
Mm.
You wrote that?
I agree, yes.
Okay. And then on December 18th, 2015, you wrote, client states she went to Dr. Tipper's office and was assessed by NP Monroe T as Dr. Tipper was out of the office. You wrote that?
Yes,
And NP stands for nurse practitioner.
that's correct.
And you understand Monroe T stood for Monroe Tinker?
Yes.
You recall if Mr. Depp ever forgot to take any of his medication?
At a specific time or ever?
In any time where you were working with him?
I would say vaguely, yes.
Ms. Bellotti, I'm showing what's been marked as Exhibit 11 to your deposition, which is Bellotti 96 through 106. You see that?
Yes.
You recall receiving this text message, right?
I have a vague memory of this.
Do you recall if you spoke to Amber after you received this text message? Or at any
Time
time
after you
What
received
was the text message?
around
What does it
May
say?
21st, May 22nd, 2016.
I can't see.
Are you saying a phone call or just? I don't really recall.
It could have happened, you just don't recall one way or the other.
I would agree with that.
And you received this picture from Amber?
That's correct.
What is this picture of?
I was just asking if you could scroll down. Could you rewind it just a little?
Ms. Heard.
And does the picture show redness under Miss Heard's eyes?
You can answer as a lay person if she has such an opinion. If you have an opinion one way or the other, you can let them know.
I'm not an expert, so, I mean, there's color on her face in different areas. I don't know what's what.
And you received this first picture of Amber at 12:36 a.m., correct?
That's the timestamp there.
And you received another picture at 12:36 a.m.?
It appears so.
And who do you see in that picture?
Also misheard.
And you received a third picture of Amber at 12:36 a.m.?
Yes, it appears so.
And is that third picture of Amber?
Yes, that's misheard.
And you received the fourth picture of Amber at 12:36 a.m.?
Then, yes.
And this fourth, I think just so it's clear, the fourth picture is of Amber, correct?
That's correct.
And you received that at 12:36 a.m.?
Yes, that's the timestamp.
And these are pictures of Amber's face, correct?
Yes, that's a picture of her face and neck.
Do you recall if you recall receiving those pictures?
Like I said, I have a vague memory of this, but I don't specifically remember receiving it.
Okay. Do you know if you reported these pictures or what Ms. Heard reported to you to Dr. Kipper?
I would assume that if any information was presented to me, I would have contacted Dr. Kipper.
Do you know how you would have contacted Dr. Kipper?
No, I, depending on the date, time, I would sometimes call, email, text.
Do you recall if you wrote nurse notes for this incident?
I don't recall.
Do you want us to look at Exhibit 2?
It's the nursing notes?
Yeah. Why don't we do
Sure.
that? So there's notes for May 11th, 2016. You see that?
Yeah.
And then the next notes for May 26th, 2016.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why you didn't include notes for May 21st, 2016?
I don't know.
And on May 26th, you wrote, client texted RN requesting Ambien as she states she's suffering from insomnia due to stress and anxiety. Client reports, quote, having the hardest week of my life, end quote. You wrote that?
Yes.
And you wrote, client states she cannot deal with the negative media publicity she has received surrounding the divorce she requested from her husband, JD. Dr. Kipper notified Ambien 10 milligrams, QHS PRN 14 ordered. Per Dr. Kipper, client is encouraged to make appointment with Dr. Kipper in office to be assessed. Client did not respond. You wrote that?
Yes.
Ms. Vladi, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 12 to your deposition, which is Vladi 114 through 119. You can take a look through them. It appears to be notes of when you were Mr. Depp's nurse, as opposed to Ms. Heard. But feel free to take a look.
That's correct. I think these are my nursing notes in relation to Mr. Depp.
So client now is Mr. Depp, correct?
That's correct, because these nursing notes are in reference to Mr. Depp. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And in the nursing note for April 23rd, 2015, you wrote that Dr. Kipper will introduce Rosalind Phillip to Debbie RN and clients Amber H. and Johnny Depp. Debbie RN will assist in coordinating session appointments between clients and Ms. Phillips. Do you know if Mr. Depp and Amber ever saw Rosalind Phillip?
I don't know.
Two times, Amber showed her or sent her pictures and told her about injuries on her body. And then when she asked her to go to the ER or to go to an actual doctor to get them checked out, she dropped it.
117.
Just noticing that.
It shows notes for June 7th, 2016, correct?
That is correct.
You wrote, the following medications were approved per Dr. Kipper to be given to the client, and then there's a list of medications. You wrote these notes, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you understand that Mr. Depp was taking those medications as of June 7th, 2016?
For this nursing note, it appears that
Is this like ADHD med that Amber took or something?
And then there's a nursing note for June 26, 2016. See that?
Yes.
And it says, you wrote, client is going through divorce with wife Amber H. and is dealing with the loss of his mother, passed away 1 month ago. Client was provided with a divorce request from wife AH 3 days after mother passed away. You see that?
Yes,
You wrote that?
yes.
So was it your understanding that Amber asked for a divorce?
This note says that Mr. Depp was provided with divorce request from Ms. Hurd, so it appears she was the one requesting a divorce.
Right, and you wrote next, client states he was not aware AH wanted divorce and expresses confusion regarding AH's desire to terminate marriage. You wrote that?
Yes.
Is that what Mr. Depp told you?
I would assume if I wrote
That's
it
telling.
in my notes.
Then you wrote, client's divorce has been highly publicized. And wife AH has been accused him of several character damaging allegations, including domestic violence. You wrote that, correct?
Correct.
Was this on did you write this based on information Mr. Depp provided you?
I don't know. I would assume that I've had discussions with him regarding this, considering that this is a nursing note for Mr. Depp.
Did Mr. Depp tell you his character had been damaged as of June 2016?
I don't recall. I have to go by what my note says here. So it alludes to that's something that he had discussed.
And you see where you wrote, client states he felt helpless previously, but is now angry at AH and wants to clear his name. Mr. Depp told you that?
Again,
I don't recall for sure, but I would go back to
In
my
a note,
notes
you should
because
be
those were
writing
written
that
more
properly,
at the
and
time,
if,
so I would
so
assume
that
that
if
he
you
might
have to
discuss that.
talk about it, then you can recall.
Okay, further
Obviously,
down,
he said that.
You wrote RN assisted client in processing.
I'm not
feelings
impressed
and
with this
clients to
nurse.
continue utilizing individual therapy as he responded well to RN's use of therapeutic communication. You see that?
yes,
And you wrote that, correct?
yes,
Then you wrote client is resistant, stating, quote, I don't want anyone like Amber's wife therapist. He has only made things worse, end quote. You see that?
yes,
And you wrote that?
yes,
And where it's quotes, I don't want anyone like Amber's therapist. He's only made things worse. That was something that Mr. Depp told you?
Again, as I have.
Sounds
it
like
in
she's
quotations,
quoting
I
him.
assume he made that statement.
I believe that Amber's therapist made it worse because she had him probably wrapped around her finger, the therapist, I mean. It's her therapist. She can tell him and say whatever the heck she wants.
RN's seven-hour visit. Client did not eat during visit and drank water only with several prompts from RN. RN educated client on possible interactions between prescribed medication and alcohol. Client verbalized understanding but stated, quote, right now I need a little alcohol for all the bad things I'm going through, end quote. You wrote those lines?
yes,
Say the document speaks best as to how many drinks Mr. Depp had,
correct,
and that Mr. Depp drank 3 vodka drinks during your visit.
that's what my note says.
Then you said RN provided one-on-one emotional support and encouraged clients to limit and or abstain from alcohol and illicit drugs. You wrote that?
Yes.
Do you recall why you told Mr. Depp to abstain from illicit drugs?
Isn't that kind of
No,
obvious?
but I did, and not just with Mr. Depp, but in my line of nursing, provide education always with any medication clients are on and contraindications.
You know if Mr. Depp ever took any illicit drugs during the
That was a safe, good
during
answer.
the 2014 to 2016 timeframe?
Not
don't
that
know.
I
I didn't
recall.
witness.
Him using any illicit drugs, so I can't speak to that.
Your Honor, at this point, the questioning switches over to questions for, by counsel for Mr. Depp. That's all right with us, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, let's go ahead and break for the evening. We will see you in the morning. Just do not discuss the case and do not do any outside research. All right? And we'll have
Oh,
the
they're
rest
breaking.
tomorrow morning. Okay, thank you.
So they're going to start fresh tomorrow with Depp's attorney speaking to this nurse regarding her, sounds like she had Amber Heard as a nursing client, as well as before that, Johnny Depp. Yeah, a lot of telling information in there.
Thank you.
So I think as a professional, listening to that professional, very much trying to give as little information as possible. From what she said, it really sounded like I heard at least 2 or 3 times she was talking about how Miss Heard would text her. First of all, I don't understand why I guess celebrities, I don't understand. That's not a professional or safe or ethical thing to do, to be anyways, texting people at 1 o'clock in the morning, your nurse at 1 o'clock in the morning, showing bruises and saying that your hair was pulled out or whatever. In both those instances, which I just listened to her testimony, it said that the nurse advised her to go to the Emerge to get the alleged hair pulled out of the scalp assessed, and also with the text message with the redness on the face, which I don't know what that was. She advised her to do the same, and both times she dropped it. Who knows what that was or is, but it's with the previous psychologist that presented the diagnosis that she gave for Miss Heard, the 2 diagnosis personality disorders. In that, I'm not speaking to anybody in specific, but I'm just saying in that it can be common to elicit attention from many, many people, friends, family, professionals. And then when called on the information, it's dropped. Or friendships go on for a little while and can potentially have a pattern of this person kind of becoming perceived as a drama person, drama queen, drama king. And then once that kind of gets old with, phone calls, texts, late night emergency situations constantly and needing for constant support, sometimes the friendships fade away and can find new people that are very sympathetic because they just met the person. So this can be typically the pattern. This kind of sounds a little bit like the pattern could potentially be. So that's not really boding well for her case either. That nurse did not want to have any part of that. I could perceive that she was kind of a little bit scared shitless of what liability she might have in this case, and was definitely, from my perception, giving as little information as humanly possible. So that was very interesting, as usual. Some very interesting witnesses from what I was just on a little bit today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you are watching or you watch later, have a great night, stay safe, and